Hello and welcome to my retro watches. Today I'm featuring this new Phoibos. It's called the Sea Nymph and it's something for the ladies. So guys, if you are collecting watches and your wife is always frowning on you, then perhaps this is one that might get you back in her good books. So stick around for this one because I will also be doing a modification to this watch later in the video. But for time being, let's go through all of the stats and specifications, show you all the case finishes. It's got some interesting features, this watch, certainly. So without further ado, let's crack on. First of all, there's 5 colorways to this watch, which I'll show you now. They all sport this mother of pearl dial. So there's a mint green one, there's an aquamarine blue, a Tahitian black, which to me just looks like dark blue, a Sakura pink, and an Aquara white. And of course it's the white mother of pearl dial that I'm showing here. I had the choice to pick a colour and this is the one that my wife picked. So I'm going to start off with the watch dimensions. The case diameter is 38.5 millimeters. That in my opinion is quite big for a lady's watch. I'm quite happy wearing a 38mm, so let's put it that way. Now that does actually include the bezel, and the bezel overhangs quite a lot on this case because it's got those big tangs in order to turn the bezel. The case thickness is 14.25mm, and that is in part because it's got a domed sapphire crystal on it. If I measure it from the bezel, it's around 13mm. The lug tip to lug tip is 44mm, which is nice and compact. There's no male end links or nothing protruding from the top of the lugs, so that measurement is accurate. I'll do a wrist shot a bit later on this one. I can probably do a wrist shot on my wrist, but certainly on my wife's. The lug width is 18mm and it does taper down to 16mm. Moving on to the dial then, so the dial is mother of pearl. As such, it reflects different colours of light depending on the angle that you have that dial and the lighting conditions that you're under. All very, very nice, and if you look closely you'll see some lines. They look like a spiral. Now Phoibos described this as a flower in bloom, so you could say they're petals. To me they look more like a spiral, but I'm sure that is a nice feature and very feminine, of course, because this is the ladies' watch. On to the indices. So I've seen these indices before. They're a direct copy of the one that was on their Voyager 3. I do like that style of index. It's very, very Phoibos. Looks nice on this watch too. You have a matching hour hand, but the mini hand is a lot more plain, so perhaps they could have made that the same shape as the hour hand in my opinion. Typical second hand with a lume pip. At 12 o'clock we've got the Phoibos octopus logo that is printed on. Of course at 6 we have the date, and we also have automatic, and it has got 200 meters of water resistance, so it is a dive watch for the ladies. Also like the minute track as well. That again is a direct copy from the Voyager 3. Here's the bezel action. So it's 120 clicks, and because you've got those big tangs on the bezel, it turns really, really easily. Lines up nicely with the 12. There's a lume pip. The bezel is sandblasted. I like that effect with the high polished markers as well. Now the classic Lume Shot. This has 15 layers of Superluminova BGW9, which gives it that nice blue hue. It's on the hands, it's on the indices, it's on the lume pip. I don't know how they do 15 layers. Somebody in the comments last time said perhaps it's sprayed on. I think that's not a bad theory. As you can see, it glows quite well to the start. This is a time lapse over 10 minutes or just under 10 minutes. I think it does quite well. It was glowing a lot better at the end than it looks on the camera, and it's probably going to last you for quite a few hours. Now onto the case finishing. So Phoibos always do really good finishing, and this case is no exception. Nearly everywhere is a brushed finish. On the sides you've got vertical brushing, which is really well done. I have to say I'm quite impressed with how they've done it as well, because they keep the edges really sharp, especially round the crown guard where it's angled, and that's executed really well. The only polished surfaces that you can see are the bezel tangs, and the crown as well is high polished. Lugs are brushed, bracelet is brushed too. Let's flip it over and see the case back, because Phoibos are known for their case backs, and this one is another belter in my opinion. So you have a diver there, presumably a lady, really nicely done. And we've got some writing on the back as well. We've got Phoibos, lady divers, the water resistance, it says sapphire, Japanese movement, and it's an automatic. Interesting holes as well on the back there for to remove the case back. I've never seen that. On to the strap. So the strap is fully brushed, done very well again. Bracelet works nicely, just a little uninteresting really, the sort of H-link design. We have screwed pins for adjustments. Down onto the clasp, we've got a milled clasp. The case upper has got etched onto it the Phoibos logo, which is what I always like to see, and you've got two push button sides for the quick release. Right, before we go to the bench and have a look at the movement, how much is this watch going to cost? So here we are on the phoiboswatch.com website, which is their worldwide shipping site, and all 5 versions are here, and they are all $315, excluding any taxes to you in your country. Quite a few reviews as well, all looking good. One side note is that Phoibos do have a European warehouse. Obviously that helps for the European buyers to not pay the import tax that you might get. And sadly, when we go to phoiboswatcheurope.com as of today, which is the 31st of August, we are out of stock on 4 of the 5 watches, which is quite sad. Hopefully they'll put some more in stock. I guess saying they're out of stock must mean that they've been selling well, and that can only be a good thing for Phoibos. So all that said, let's now go to the bench. So here we are back on the bench, and let's just test the NH35 Seiko movement that is in this watch. And you know what I'm like with an NH35. Let's see how good or bad this one is. So immediately we get a trace. Beat error is a bit rough. I've just turned the gain down in case it's getting a bit of noise from the background. So here we go. So already I can tell you that that's in Seiko's specs. However, it's not to within my specs. 14 seconds a day and a horrible beat error of 0.3. So as always, I'm probably going to have to regulate this a little bit. Oops. And that's the last thing I wanted to happen. It's not gripping it at all very well. It's because of that strange bezel it's got. Let's try it in a few different positions. So this is crown down. And we get a much larger beat error at crown down. It's kind of be expected, but it's not picking it up. There we go, 0.5, not acceptable. And let's just do crown up then as well. Sorry, the camera doesn't want to focus. So crown up is a lot better. That's going to be a beat error of maybe 0.1, I would have thought, looking at that trace. 0.2, there we go. And let's just turn it all the way around. I'm actually going to take it off and pop it in for dial down, which actually is surprising. We've still got quite a bit of beat error there as well. Let's let it settle down. But there you go, that is a typical NH35 movement. It's accurate to within 20 seconds a day, let's say, and of course it'll go forever because it's Seiko. So there we go. So my wife's main criticism is actually the bracelet. So it doesn't look female enough, really. It is, and I kind of agree, it is a nice solid bracelet, don't get me wrong, but as this is a woman's watch, you would want to make it look a little bit more shiny, I would say. So before I start trying to buy new bracelets and straps, what I intended to do is I'm going to mask off all of these outside links with some Captain tape, some heat proof tape, and I'm going to polish all the center links, and that might make this watch a little bit more appealing for it. Now I know, you know, it's a brand new watch, it seems a shame thing to do to it, but you know, that's an idea I've got. So let's do that now. So the first interesting thing is actually the end links here. They have quick release on them, and I've never seen this before. It's a double quick release, and as such you cannot remove that spring bar. I'm not too sure how I do it at all. And there is a screw here as well, so that is actually going to take the bracelet away, but it's going to leave that end link dangling, I would have, well, it is for certain. So I'll have to try and do that one separately to the rest of the links. And you can actually see here as well as where it's rubbing when it's touching there, that it's marking it as well. So that's the Captain tape. You can buy that very cheaply. Use a razor blade, carefully exposed the links that I want to polish. Same with the end links here, and I'm going to try and bend that a little bit to do it. So I'm going to get the Dremel out, get some new felt wheels, and away we go. So I've got different compounds to use, and I have these little felt wheels which I've just cut down a little bit with a razor blade to try and make it as close to the size as I can. I'm going to start off with this green paste, and that's a bit coarser than most of them, just to try and get under the graining to start with. So you can already see they are starting to shine underneath that, but it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of different compounds. So I'll switch the camera off, I'll get them all done, and you can see the end result. So completely covered in compound, and they look okay from a distance, not so perfect up front, but I'll take all the wrappers off and give it a good clean and an ultrasonic and put it back on the watch, and we can see if it's made an improvement, or at least if my wife now likes it. Right then, so back out in the daylight and you can see my achievements. So it is a fair mirror polish. Get close up though, it's not so perfect because the brushing or the grain effect that they put on was quite deep, and I haven't been able to get under it completely, but it certainly made it look a little bit better. So with that said, here it is on my wife's wrist, and she is reasonably impressed with it now. She does think it's made an improvement. However, we do think there could be a better bracelet to start with for the ladies. So there we go, that's it on my wife's wrist. So how about seeing it on mine just for a bit of fun? Here we go. And again, it proves that 38mm can be carried off by a guy with a 7-inch wrist diameter. So let's round this review up. What do I think? Well, first of all, I think it's great that Phoibos, or any brand really, is trying to make an automatic watch for the ladies. Definitely a good attempt. It's a dive watch, so I'm guessing that's probably why it's a bit big, but I do feel that it is probably a little bit too big for most ladies. I know that the ladies in my family like smaller watches. That being said, my wife does like the bigger watch. And again, let's make that bracelet just that little bit more interesting. It's too plain as it is, and you know, a lot of the girls, they like the bling, they like the shine, and I think that could be improved. But overall, it is a good effort, and hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please give it a like, leave comments below. There are links below also if you wanted to pick one of these up for your wife. You never know, you get in a good books, it means that you can go out and buy your Seiko or your Longines or whatever you want to buy for the next part of your collection. So, you know, you're always worth buttering up the other half. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video very soon.